All right, so we're going to run through the workflow from a DNG into a PSD and all the steps in between. Sound good? Okay. So I'm going to right-click on this DNG, and it's automatically going to open Photoshop and will allow me to make my basic edits in Camera Raw. Now remember, you might not use all of these tools, but it's a good place to start. So this is the image before any editing. You always want to check your black and white points first. Play around with your highlights and your shadows. You can do the final finessing of your light in Photoshop, but in here is a great place to get that started. And what you're doing, again, is working with your histogram. Go back to the white balance and set your white balance. In this case, it's auto. I think that's a little cold, so I'm going to hit I, and then click on one of these rocks, see if we can't, whoa, that got magenta. That got cyan. Let's try her sweater. That's a little better. So we can bring this back down. And I want to warm it up a little bit, but I don't want the sky to go too crazy. So that's starting to look good. Now, I'm going to do just the basics in Camera Raw. And one of the things I can do is my tone curve, but I'm going to wait and do that in Photoshop. We have sharpening, noise reduction. If you want to try noise reduction, zoom into 100. And then find a place where you can see, such as this example, you can see that there is noise in her face. So I am going to drag the luminance slider up just a bit to soften that noise. And in this case, it's black and white noise, and you can tell by looking in the shadows. If it were color noise, you'd see RGB values, right? So I just see black and white. Increase the contrast. You don't want to go too far, or else it will get very soft and look like it's made of mud. You can, in here, play around with hue, saturation, and luminance. So if I wanted the orange to be a little more orange or a different orange, I could do that in here. And the next one, split toning, we're not doing that right now. The next one, lens correction, you're always going to want to do this in here. It makes it much easier. And if it doesn't know your camera, don't worry, you can kind of guess. Okay, and Command minus out, and then go Shift T up here to the transform. And I like to go through all of these to see if one or the other takes out any kind of weird lens distortion. And I think that's looking pretty good. So now we have tools in Camera Raw such as the adjustment brush, the graduated filter, and the radial filter, where you can make localized adjustments. And I think you guys know how to do those. Excellent. But what I'm going to do is start shifting all of that stuff that you're doing into Photoshop, right? So what we've done in here is just the basics, right? Just the basics. Her face is a little dark. We're going to address that in Photoshop. Maybe over up the exposure a little bit. Okay. So we've done just the basic editing. And then when we're ready, we have to hit Open Object. Now I have mine set for default Open Object. And if you want to do that, come to this little hyperlink here. Click on it. And you can check Open in Photoshop as Smart Objects, which will allow you to go back into Camera Raw if your color balance is a little off or you want to change one of the settings. Okay? By default, it will not be turned on and it will say Open Image. When you hit Open Image, it opens the image with a flat, locked background, and I can't see any of your work. So in order for me to see your work, I need to see a smart object. So now I can just hit Smart Object, and it will open in Photoshop. One other thing really quickly. So get one that's not just pitch black. Here we go. If you don't have this set as Smart Object and you go in and you do all your settings, If you hit Shift, it will change Open Image to Open Object, which will also allow you to open it as a smart object that way. So we're going to start focusing on doing our basic adjustments, our white, our black points, our color balance, our highlights, shadows, a little bit of noise corrections if you want to work with HSL, and definitely our lens corrections in Camera Raw. But as far as burning and dodging and starting to really get a hold of the lighting, we're going to do that in Photoshop, and we're also going to do black and white in Photoshop.